Hello and welcome to this interview for my autism podcast with a mentor from Impact Mentoring, Lee Mounty. Lee is a mentor for the mentoring company, and also as well, he's also a sports coach as well, who basically does football and also does some training, and he also goes to the gym as well. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lee from Impact Mentoring. As Aaron said, I'm a mentor with young people at the minute, and I'm also a sports coach and have an active lifestyle.
Okay, so the first question on my list is, what does autism mean to you and why, from your point of view?
Okay, so at Impact Mentoring, we take every child as their own. So every kid's different, and we don't treat autism any differently in terms of the privileges children get. However, depending on the levels there are on the spectrum, then we will try and use activities and sessions where we can bring the mentee out of their comfort zone, but while not pressurizing them to do so.
Is it difficult to build an understanding with a mentee who has autism? What are the challenges that you face, and why do you think this is the case?
I think mainly it would be down to patience. I think children and young people with autism, because they think in a completely different way to others, it's about getting on their level and being patient and understanding what their goals are in order of what they want to achieve. In terms of challenges, as I said, again, it's just down to patience. We set out goals of our mentees, and we always make sure they're realistic and to a good time scale. And we can also adapt as well. So if a mentee is coming out of their comfort zone and maybe struggling a bit, we can adapt it and minimise it. If they're doing really well, we can progress that quicker. And if maybe they're developing slower than they or we would like, then we can adapt the goals so that they're more realistic once more.
Is there any guidelines set by your boss you need to follow when supporting a mentee with autism? Why is this the case?
No, there's no guideline set at all. As I said, I think it's because every child or young person with autism is different and on a different level on the spectrum. But what we will do is our boss will allocate the better trained staff, if you like, people who have worked with autism before, and there'll always be an initial meet with family members as well, just so that everyone's comfortable with the choice of mentee going forward. But no, there's no real guidelines to follow. It is just the mentee will have their profile, the mentors will have a profile of their backgrounds, what they're good at, what they do, and we try and find the best fit for both.
Is routine an important factor for you when supporting someone with autism? Is it different depending on the mentee? Furthermore, why do you think routine is important for a mentee?
I think so. I think routine is actually important for all of our mentees. It's not a case of where we get a call and so and so would like to be mentored on this day or coached on this day. Everything is done through a timetable. The mentees are aware of their session times and who they're going to be mentored by. So I think it is important to stick to that plan and give them routine, because if you want to gain someone's trust and build a rapport with someone, I think it needs to be consistent rather than dipping in and out. With autism, again, it would depend on the child or the young person. Maybe more so, and maybe we might, in terms of illnesses and holidays within staff, we would probably have to plan a bit more carefully if we're covering a child or young person with autism. But as a whole, I think routine is important for any child or young person that we work with.
When you support an autistic mentee during a trip, is it different to maintain continuity? Furthermore, is there any different guidelines need to be considered when on the trip with the mentee? Why do you think this is?
No, I don't think it's difficult to maintain if, as I just touched on, if you're being consistent with the sessions, and they're regular, and you're building a rapport with that child or young person with autism, and you're showing them the respect that they're giving you, and you're being patient along the way, then I don't find it is difficult. But again, that would be based on the match we would give and who would be assigned to work with that particular person. Because if we have a mentor, for example, who has only worked with teenagers in a mainstream school, for example, then they may not understand an 8-year-old with autism from the get-go. So I don't think it's difficult as long as it's staffed correctly from the off. I've worked with a lot of children with autism, and luckily I've always been able to build a good rapport. And yeah, I haven't found it difficult. But as I say, if there are any times that are unsettled, then you adapt as a team, really, rather than just as a mentee or a mentor.
Do you think the use of right tone is important? For example, keeping your voice consistent that doesn't impact a mentee's heightened senses. Why do you think this?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, with any child or young person, but especially someone who suffers with autism, I think it's important that they feel safe at all times, which means even if you're put in a situation where things maybe aren't so calm, I myself would always remain calm, keep a calm tone, relax, and I would always keep on their level, just to ensure that they feel comfortable and safe in terms of the events at that time. What I'm going to do is unsettle a child or young person with autism, and you are their comfort blanket. So if I'm struggling to cope with something, then it's only going to have a knock-on effect. So yeah, I think you need to stay calm and confident at all times.
When mentee's heightened senses is alarmed, is there any coping strategies to help to reassure them? What are they?
Yes and no. Again, we're not given any guidelines as such. Obviously, we all have relevant training if we are working with a child or young person with autism. But I would just, it depends on the level of it. If they were really struggling and it was clear that they were uncomfortable in that situation, then obviously I would take them away from that activity or whatever was taking place at the time. I would obviously take them away from it as quickly as possible. There are times where you can minimise it. So it might be, I don't know, a cinema, for example, that a mentee may choose to go and watch a film. Obviously, it's light to begin with, and it goes dark. There's lots of loud noises, sudden noises. But with that, for example, it's just a case of I would allow the child to choose where we were going to sit, the child or the young person, sorry, so they're comfortable and know that if they are uncomfortable, then we can literally walk a few yards to exit the cinema, for example. Obviously, it wouldn't just be cinemas, but no, again, it's just about staying calm, being on their level and understanding, really, and always putting the child or young person with autism first, and just speaking to them. If you've got the trust and rapport with a child or young person with autism, then 9 times out of 10 they're going to tell you what's unsettling them, and then you would act.
When something has changed on the timetable, do you think it is important to let mentees know in advance? Furthermore, do you let your mentees know via contacting their parents? Why do you think it is important to let the mentees know in advance?
100%. I'd like to think I'm very organised myself. I just put myself in their shoes, to be honest. If I was a young person or a child and I was being mentored, it would probably be something I would look forward to regularly. Things come up, illnesses happen, people go on holiday, but no, I have a good rapport with all the children and young people I work with, whether they're autistic, disabled, or neither. And yeah, I will always speak to the parent first. 9 times out of 10, I'll also speak to the child, whether it's over the phone or at the house, and explain why this is happening, even though it might be something simple to us. It may be more difficult for people with autism to understand. And I always let the provider know as well. So whether that's a council-based provider, a school provider, or whether they're self-referred, there's always 2 or 3 parties, including the child themselves, that I would contact and update. And then it's never a missed session. It's always rearranged. So yeah, I think it's 100% important.
When it comes to loud noises and strong lights, what is the strategies to help the Mounty? So why do you think it's important to keep lights and noise very low? Why do you think this?
I think it's something I wouldn't avoid at all costs unless the Mounty had requested it. But it's something that you have to assess, and something that I would try and keep to a minimum. So if I'm working with a child who suffers, under extreme lighting and loud noise and things like that, I wouldn't want to limit their options of activities. So if there was something they really wanted to do and it involved an amount of lighting and noises, then I would still go for it. But I'd make them aware of the lighting and noises that may occur. But I don't know. I always think you can find a balance within something. So if we did go somewhere and maybe there was slightly more lights than the Mounty had anticipated, and maybe it was noisier than they first thought. Again, 9 times out of 10, you can still take part in the activity, but maybe scale it down. I don't know. For example, so when I've used the cinema, the child or young person will probably feel more comfortable sitting at lower level seats and closer to the doors, so they have that option. They know they're safe, but at the same time, if things get too much, they're only a few yards from walking out and being back in their comfort zone.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Lee Mounty from Impact Mentoring, signing out.